What goes into building an iconic brand in the wedding industry? What about certain wedding industry brands make them recognizable? Welcome to the very first episode of our new series, Behind the Brand, where I interview some of the leading wedding pros in the industry and rising stars to understand what they're doing in their business to help them grow. Hey there, friends, and welcome back to the Power in Purpose podcast. It's me, your host, Candice, and welcome to the first episode in our new series, Behind the Brand, where I'm doing a deep dive into some of the most iconic brands in the wedding industry and the rising stars of our industry to understand what they're doing differently, what's working in their business, and to see if there are any commonalities between brands that are recognized in our industry and brands that are growing. I had the idea to do this series because I think there's something interesting going on between some brands that make it in our industry. They're doing things differently to build a recognized brand. I see the commonalities from a coaching perspective in talking to a lot of these businesses. And I wanted to kind of investigate what was really happening behind the scenes, what they were doing in their marketing, what they were doing in the building of their brand, what challenges they've overcome, what they've gotten really good at in business. I wanted to ask them all these questions to see, are there common threads? Are there things that certain businesses in the wedding industry do that make them more successful? Are there certain things that maybe they avoid? So the idea to do this series was born, and I couldn't be more excited for our very first guest. Jamesa Alexandra is somebody that I have had the privilege of supporting for, maybe 4 years now. Jamesa has been a member of my mastermind for a long time, and I've gotten to see firsthand the evolution of her brand. In fact, I remember meeting her for the very first time and being very taken back by her drive, her desire to succeed, and her big vision for her business. And over the last several years, I've gotten to see an evolution of Jamesa's business, Jayne Heir Events. And I've had people literally come to me and say, I want her business. I want the type of business that she's building. No lie. I've literally had people come to me and ask me if I can do that for them. And I'm like, well, do you have Jamesa's style? Do you have Jamesa's drive? Do you have Jamesa's all the things that have gone into building her business? Because some of those things are required. Like, I'm just here helping her out. She's doing all the work. So to answer that question, I don't know. It depends on what you bring to the table and if you've got Jamesa energy. I wanted to invite Jamesa as our first guest on this series because, like I said, I've really gotten to take a look at her brand and I've got to see the evolution of her business, Jayne Heir Events. Jamesa is located in the DMV, Washington, D.C. area, and if you have not met her brand before, go and check out her brand. She's in the middle of a brand rebrand a little bit, or a brand shift. And we're going to explore a little bit more about that shift in her business. It's subtle, but it's also kind of big behind the scenes. We're going to talk about that. But Jamesa works with high-end luxury clients and creates incredible parties. Her work is gorgeous. It's big, it's bold, it's diverse. She is an amazing designer. Her designs are incredible, and she's worked with some pretty incredible clients. So today, I get the chance to sit down and interview her and pick her brain about her journey. In our interview, you'll see me ask her some questions about how she got started and how her business has evolved since she began. We're going to talk about her approach to marketing, which is go big or go home, by the way. She has done some incredible things with her marketing that have really helped to grow her brand. And what she thinks is required of businesses in this market at this stage of the industry, what she thinks we need to be doing in order to elevate our brand so that it gets noticed. With brands like Jamesa's and Jayne Heir events and the businesses that I plan to bring on the podcast, there's this unique characteristic about their business. And it's what I see, is why I'm inviting them on the show. When you scroll social media and you don't see an account, but you see an image or you read a caption, you instantly know who it is. And that isn't by happenstance. That isn't by accident. And even if they don't realize a lot of the strategies they implemented brought them to this space, I can tell you upon reflection, they know what they did in their journey to build a brand that people recognize. They know that these things played a role in their business. Social media is so noisy, it's so loud. The wedding industry is incredibly saturated. It's becoming more difficult to stand out, especially as everyone looks the same. What about Jamesa's business and the businesses behind the brand in this series make them stand out so well? That is what we are exploring on these episodes. Now, before we get into my incredible interview with Jamesa Alexander, I do want to let you know that the doors to the Planner's Playbook are opening next Tuesday, October 29th. I will reveal all, but if you are not on the wait list, you want to get your butt on the wait list because there are some special incentives, bonuses, gifts for waitlisters only. So make sure you go to plannersplaybook.com, jump on the wait list. You'll be the first to hear about what the Planner's Playbook is reopening, pricing, features, all that's included, and you'll get access to some pretty cool special upgrades and bonuses on me. So that's plannersplaybook.com. Doors do reopen on October 29th, and they'll only be open for a week, which is plenty of time for you to make a decision, but a short enough window where it's going to hopefully get you to take some action on your business. All right, friends, are you ready for our first episode in the Behind the Brand series? I'm so excited to share this interview with Jamesa Alexander from Jayne Heir Events and for us to uncover together the secret behind the success of her business. So without further ado, let's get into my interview with Jamesa. Jamesa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Candice. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show today. Yay.
Oh my goodness. Yay. I'm super excited. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have than you for this incredible series that we're doing, our Behind the Brand series. Your brand is something that so many people admire, and I've gotten the chance to see behind the scenes just how hard you've worked to build your business, and I can't wait to hear from your perspective, like all the things that you think worked for you, maybe what didn't work, some of the secrets to your success, any failures you've had along the way. So I just couldn't think of a better person to have this conversation with. So thank you for being so open to being our first guest for this series.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Candice. For those of you that don't know, Candice is like one of the most influential people in my life and business that I've come across. She's really helped me to grow and evolve. And so I'm really, really honored to be able to be on her podcast and to share a little bit about my story and just the brand. And also just to encourage anyone that's listening to this podcast that is a business owner, that's thinking about being in business, any creatives. I'm just glad to be a part of it all.
Oh my God, Jamesa, you're so amazing. It's been such a pleasure to see you rise in the industry and to see your business grow and evolve and change. And I'm looking forward to talking about all of that today. So I would love for you to introduce yourself properly to our audience, kind of give them a Cliff Notes version of who you are, who you serve, where you're located, so they can place you in the industry.
I am Jamesa Alexander, owner of Jayne Heir Events. We are based in the Washington, D.C. area, celebrating 10 years in business, which is super exciting. We like to produce events that are just out of the box, fun color palettes, things that just are not repeatable. I love that when clients get to work with us, they get this one of a kind experience in an event that just really embodies who they are as individuals, but also as a couple, too.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great, nice summary of your business. And that's pretty much what I said as I introduced you to everyone as well. So I love it. Well, I would love to start at the beginning for you and take us back to what inspired you to start your business. What inspired you to get into the wedding industry?
So I will say I don't know so much inspiration. I started in this business in a very unconventional way, I would say. I started this business at the tail end of a divorce. And I think even if I didn't have happiness for myself, I found great joy in being able to celebrate others and to be a part of their journey. And I feel like in a point where it wasn't necessarily the best time of my life, I had the opportunity to be a part of other people that were experiencing the best part of their life. And because of that, I think it really saved me. It helped me to grow, helped me to understand that there is still opportunity for love and marriage, but also just an opportunity to grow as a woman, as an individual, being a single person now and just trying to figure out life ahead. And so I would say, I guess the inspiration was really helping other people is what really started me in this industry. I didn't come from, hospitality or work at a restaurant or catering, but really just a heart of being willing to serve and just to be in a business that I could celebrate others.
Mm. Such not a unique story in the sense that I think so many wedding pros go through similar life changes, relationship changes, divorce, and we don't talk about it because we feel like it's frowned upon in our industry.
Yeah.
Been there myself, so I totally get it. I wish we would talk about it more and feel like it's part of our journey and own it like you've done as you describe how you started your business. I appreciate that you were grieving and trying to balance that grief while also inviting joy of other people.
Yeah, which is definitely something I feel like should be discussed more. I think we're in an industry where we spend so much time celebrating others that sometimes we can lose our way in celebrating ourselves or cheering for ourselves, just showing up for, ourselves. And I think that's a whole nother podcast topic, but
It
I
sure is.
agree.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, you mentioned that you didn't have really any formal training. You didn't come from a hospitality background. I'd love to explore that a little bit and just kind of understand. I mean, when you see the work that you do, it's amazing. Your designs, the depth, the level of detail that you incorporate in your events, it's incredible. And it's fascinating to me that you started maybe with limited design experience or limited creative experience and look how far you've managed to grow. So, where do you think did you learn it along the way? Did it just come naturally to you?
So I would say I think planning events definitely came naturally to me. As a kid, I would always plan just events and parties for my friends. I wouldn't even ask my mom. I would just be like, "Yep, Friday we're having a pizza party." I would gather all the troops, $1 per person. They would show up to my parents' house with their dollars, and my mom would be like, "What
But
is
you
that?"
charge them.
And my mom was like, I just always loved gatherings and celebrating and just being around people. And so I think just at the core of who I was as a child and growing up, that was just something that was always with me, just the art of celebrating and just being a part of that process. And so I did, go to school for kinesiology. I thought that I was going to be, in public health. And then after college, I just really lost interest. I wasn't really inspired by it. And so I started grad school and I did get my MBA. And getting my MBA really helped me to understand that one day I would own a business. I just wasn't sure what kind of business or what I really wanted to do. And so the very first wedding that I did was for one of my good friends. She was like, you're really organized or you're detailed. I feel like you could, really do this and help me in, planning my wedding. And so I agreed as the friend to plan her wedding, and that journey was very insightful because I think I didn't realize all that went into really planning a wedding like that, for 150 guests. When I got married, it was just an intimate destination wedding. We had like 19 people there. So it wasn't all of the bells and whistles that I was putting forth the effort for my friends. And I did that wedding, and that wedding cultivated so many relationships that I continued post wedding and working with vendors. And one particular person, I know some of your listeners may know her, but Natasha Wright just so happened to be the second shooter at that wedding. And we were sitting in the vendor room eating our meals, and she just said to me, "Hey, it's so nice to meet you." And we were just talking, and I said, "Today is my first wedding like I've ever done in my life." She was like, "What?" She was like, "This was like 150-person, wedding." The florist from that wedding, saying, and it really just was the first start of this could be something more. I enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed being able to help and support my friend, but I met some really amazing people along the way that were very encouraging in a vendor room, back room, eating a vendor meal that really helped me to say, I do want to take this more seriously, and I would like to actually start doing this, as a business. And ironically enough, the first wedding that I did actually was published. And so that's when I kind of was like, all right, this is more than just, doing a wedding for a friend, but I think, I have something here, and I want to explore it. And so that particular bride, she was a sorority girl. She went to an HBCU. She knew a lot of people. And I was able to really connect and build with a lot of people to get more clients to really grow my business. And I think it's just always that aspect, Candice, of people are at the core of what it is that we do in this business. And without people, without relationships, what do you really have? You don't even have an event to throw. You don't have any vendors. You don't, have anyone to provide for. And so is just a really important part of the business and the vendor relationships that you create along the way.
Yeah, I always say the wedding industry is so relationship driven, whether it's the internal relationships you have with other business owners or the relationships you build with your client and how they
Absolutely.
welcome you into their families and then they recommend you and refer to you. I love that your first wedding was with Natasha Wright. That's so amazing. She's so incredible. I got to meet
She's so
her.
amazing.
Yeah, I got to meet her when I spoke at the Signature CEO conference. Our mutual friend Kwania held a like private dinner for some of her favorite folks, and she was there. It was great to meet her. She's has amazing energy. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes.
incredible person. I love that. Do you think in reflecting back in that moment as you were at the vendor table and, this wedding was going so well and you had this whole future ahead of you, take me back to that moment and then also where you are today. Do you feel like your vision has evolved and changed over time for your business?
Absolutely. The vision definitely has changed significantly. I think that as you are a creative, a business owner, the vision evolves with you. You start with an initial vision to just get started. I think you have limited vision because you don't have, the breadth of knowledge and experience of what, your business could evolve to. But I think initially the vision that I had was to support brides, to produce weddings, and over time, that vision shifted because then I found myself around that kind of 3 to 5 year mark where my couples, now they're having babies. Now their child is having their first birthday party. Their corporate job is having a holiday gala. And the clients were coming back asking, "Hey, I know you primarily only do weddings. This is, your only market or your target audience, but would you be willing to produce this birthday party or this anniversary?" And so that's when things really shifted and the vision changed because then it wasn't just about the weddings anymore. It was more so about curating experiences for people that really wanted to celebrate in a unique way, unapologetically, however they wanted to celebrate. And being a part of that process really started to fuel the next phase of the business and what we were able to create because I think in creating, weddings, there were a lot of things that were common, amongst weddings, things, during that time period that, everyone wanted to do. But I didn't really have that level of creativity within me just yet to be able to produce other events that were not weddings. And so I think being able to do the birthday parties, the corporate events, that really started to open me up from a creative viewpoint that I didn't necessarily have before to really start to shift how I produced weddings and other events. And that curated a vision that has evolved into, what it is now in just Jayne Heir events and no longer being Jayne Heir weddings, because that's how I started out. It was just weddings. But I think it's kind of funny, in hindsight, when I set up my domain for my website and just the branding, I just did janeair.com because I didn't want to limit myself when I created that website domain, because I feel like there was always a possibility that I could do more or grow, evolve. I just didn't know what that was at the time when I started. But as I've grown and evolved, it's definitely become more about just producing incredible events, whether it's a social event, a corporate event, or a wedding, but still just at the core celebrating people in the way that they want to be celebrated.
Yeah, those values, those original values of why you started your business still being there. I think it's so incredible that you grew your design skills through not planning and designing weddings, but branching out and trying other events. I imagine getting a chance to think outside the box of weddings and getting to be creative in different ways that you can with like a baby shower or a bridal shower or a birthday party help to stretch you and really teach you just different things that you could do and then apply to the events you were planning.
Yeah, and you said something so good, Candice, just now. I think when I had the opportunity to create different type of events, it helped me to be able to become a master in the art of storytelling. Those other events allowed me to be able to create the story for the clients through event design. And that was the one push that I needed, I think, to really evolve when I started to produce events outside of weddings, because of course with weddings you focus on the love story, but with the baby showers, with the birthday parties, the anniversaries, corporate events, now it is a mission that we are supporting for this corporate client, or maybe it's a different type of event that's going to help curate fundraising for a nonprofit, or whatever it is. It gives you a different creative element to be able to really create design that's in depth and detail, that allows your, I think, just creative like portfolio to just really shine and come to life. When you do events outside of weddings, a lot of times I'm able to do a really funky color palette or create a really cool pattern, or just things that, are so fun that people are afraid to do, for weddings, because they're just used to, just here's the norm. Here's what,
Yeah.
people are used to. Here's what they're doing. But to be able to just create some really cool and funky event designs, that just, it just fueled another layer of, okay, what can we not do now? you know, to be able to grow and evolve.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I imagine that the more you were able to push yourself and stretch yourself and think outside the box, the more you started to attract clients who desired that for whatever type of event they were having. And they saw your
Absolutely.
designs as like something that they either wanted to emulate or they wanted you, the designer, to create something custom for them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you looking back at some of those beginning moments in your business, I guess if you had to boil it down to just a strategy or decision that you made early on, which one do you think contributed the most to the growth of where you are today? What seed did you plant in the first 1 to 3 years that you think contributed to this 10-year milestone that you're celebrating right now?
Honestly, I think just getting started. And I think people underestimate the value in simply getting started. I held on to this vision of creating a business, creating a wedding planning company for 3 years before I ever acted on it. And when I just made the decision that I'm going to be a business owner, I'm going to do this, I'm just going to get started, getting started was the seed that really manifested into a 10-year journey. Because once you put that faith and activation out there of just getting started, your business will just start to grow legs. It'll start to grow and stretch over time. I feel like it's very similar to and I feel crazy saying this, but it's very similar to like an algorithm
Mhm.
where you meet one person, you touch a person that connects you to the next person. You connect to the next person that creates a branch to another network. And it just keeps growing and evolving over time. And things that you surround yourself around, that you're constantly listening to or hearing, it curates the next phase of your business and your life, just like how an algorithm is. And so everything that you're feeding to yourself as a business owner, as a creative, who you're talking to, who you're spending time with, who you're interacting with, it all generates the next step for the business. And I don't think people really understand that sometimes the hardest part is simply getting started. And once you get started, then it starts to create your algorithm of what the future looks like. And I think if you're very intentional about what it is that you want to produce and what you want to create, you'll be able to keep that algorithm going for as long, as you want it to. And it's making the right connections, is making the right investments, and just understanding how it's not always about money. Like people say that money makes the world go round, but for me, it's people, and people know people, and people have relationships, and people have value. People have services that they offer. And that's really how I feel like getting started just helped to really shape a 10-year a 10-year tenure, honestly. And it sounds like so simple, but I think people spend so much time just
Mhm.
on the what ifs. It's not perfect enough. No one's gonna know me. No one's, and it's just get started. That's simply as simple as that. Getting started, planting the seed. Yeah.
Mhm. It's true, and we get started pretty much every single day, we get started at something. So even for our listeners who maybe are past the starting your business stage and there's still something that you've been sitting on that you should get started because the more you do, the more you learn. And the more, like Jamesa said, I love the algorithm analogy because it is like an algorithm. In order for you to be connected to someone over here, you have to get started to create that connection. It's just how it works. I'm
Mhm.
curious, was there a moment when you felt like your brand had finally made it in the industry?
This is so hard. I don't feel like you ever feel like you made it. I feel like you're always making it. That if that really, because I think I don't know, I'm a really, like, humble person, but I feel like I never wanna get to a point where I feel like I've made it or I've arrived, because I feel like just as hard as you've worked to get here, you have to continue working hard to stay here or to elevate further. And I think sometimes when people feel like they finally arrived or made it, they may drop the ball a bit or get comfortable and set in, oh, I've made it. I don't need to, market or do sales, or I don't need to, entertain these type of events anymore. Or,
Yeah.
people start to, build all these different personas and caveats once they feel like they've made it or arrived. And so I don't really feel like I've ever, like, made it or arrived, but I do feel like when I went full time in my business, that was something that I felt like I personally, you did it. You made it.
Mhm.
'Cause that I think when I started my business, that was something that just it seemed so unobtainable, and I didn't really know how I was gonna, get to, y that level of, in my business, to build a team, to scale, or any of that. And it wasn't until, of course, I started my business coaching with you, I guess what, 4 years ago now,
It's 4
going on, like,
years.
year
Yeah.
back, but yeah, and I think for me, that was a moment where I felt like I had made it personally in setting a goal for what I wanted to do, what I wanted to accomplish. And I was very proud in saying, "You did it, Jamesa. You made it." That was always a goal for me. But now that I have arrived here, it's like, okay, so now how do we, continue to stay here and go? But I think that's a great question. I don't know that I'll ever feel like, I've made it or I've arrived, but it's just always continuing to learn, to educate, to grow, stretch, and to evolve so that you can continue making it decade after decade.
Yeah, that's a fair answer, a humble one, a fair one, and, you're continuing to make it, so you're continuing to push yourself, not limit yourself, challenge yourself. I think that's an important part of entrepreneurship because, like you said, sometimes we have a tendency to rest on our laurels or I don't know, slack off a little bit, let things slip, and we definitely that's definitely not a good recipe for building a brand or a business that's in it for the long haul. But you said something about marketing, and I'd love to explore the topic of marketing a little bit with you because you do marketing so well, and I know you don't think you do it well. But you do. You do it so well. It's hard to see it from the inside. So I get why you might be hard on yourself about marketing or feel like you should be doing more and more and more. But from the outside looking in and from the success of your business and the clients that you're attracting, your marketing works really well. So I would love to pick your brain a little bit about marketing and first ask a pretty simple question. How do you think marketing has played a role in building a brand that people recognize in the industry?
Yeah, marketing has been really, really important for the business. And I think the first step that I did when thinking about rebranding my business and taking it to the next level, for those who don't know, when I came to Candice back in 2020, I had a goal set that I wanted to be full time in business. I wanted to become more diverse in my portfolio in the clients that we were serving, and I also wanted to be in a position where I could grow a team and not have to do everything myself. And I think in working with Candace and just kind of going through this approach, when we talked about marketing, Candace literally gave me the idea of create what you want to see in your business and just do that. And what I mean by that is I wanted to start working with more multicultural couples, producing just different type of events and creating that aspect of diversity that my business didn't have previously. And I think when we sat down to create a strategy, I put that focus in marketing and rebranding, creating more elements that show diversity in who our couples were, people that we want to celebrate and celebrate them exactly how they want to be celebrated without any limitations. And so it was that strategy and intent. So when I rebranded and created my designs for the new website, for the new rebrand, I put everything that I wanted to see to come to manifestation in my business. I put it into the marketing, the collateral, the strategy, and really just started to just foresee the future. And when I created, my style shoot, I was very intentional with what did the bride look like? And I decided to go with a Middle Eastern bride. I love just the clothing, the culture, the colors, the gold gilded. It just really challenged me to learn so much more as far as the cultures that are out there and how they celebrate marriage, what's valuable to them in their culture, family, and from that, we've been able to produce Chinese weddings, we've been able to produce Pakistani weddings. It's really just opened up a whole new world of culture that I wasn't being exposed to previously, but I wanted to be a part of that, wanted to see my business really grow and become so much more diverse, from a cultural aspect, but also too just understanding that there's a whole world out there, people that want to celebrate. So why not be a part of that? And I didn't want to limit myself based on what I was, marketing previously. And so it really took some time to come up with some strategy and intent of what I wanted to see. And it's so crazy because I think working with Candace and going a part of this coaching journey, not one time did I ever think about what does my business look like? What do I want it to look like? How do I get it to look like this? There was no strategy happening. I was literally just kind of winging it as a business owner. And I think when we really started to talk and have conversations about what we wanted, we put action behind that and creating a strategy to do that. Candice also introduced me from a marketing perspective to, I guess, what you would call like brand strategists or brand curators. And I had never even entertained that option for my business because I think as a designer, it was always, oh, I can create, I can design, which I can. But it was something different in working with a brand strategist to curate the vision for my marketing efforts. And I decided to work with Kristen from Lustry Theory, and I've worked with her twice now. And she is very gifted in being able to not only execute my vision, but then beyond that, being able to market what we've created in the channels that we want to be in. And so it really comes down to creating a marketing strategy that has some intentionality behind it, that's authentic to what you want to become and where you want to be, and then finding the right avenues to actually promote that. I think every publication or every platform is not always going to be the best fit, but doing some research and understanding where are my target clients, how do they shop, where are they shopping, where are they going. It really took some time, I think, working with Candice in our marketing efforts to assess all of the things that I wanted that I wasn't currently doing to create a strategy of how we attract that.
Yeah. You, I think, were probably one of the first wedding pros to hire a content creator to create content for you from events. Now it feels like everyone is hiring content creators, and they should. But you saw the value early on in creating content for Instagram that you appear in. So you usually welcome us to the event and talk about the design. I have a lot I'd like to discuss with you on this, but do you think that that was a bit of a turning point in your marketing by hiring a content creator, investing in that, and then just going like full throttle with putting yourself out there at events?
Absolutely. That was the game changer that really propelled the growth of the business and being really intentional with content creation. And, just like any other brand, they have these fall campaigns, spring campaigns, and they're showcasing this new bag or new pair of shoes. And I'm like, why can't I create my own Jayne Heir campaign and showcase what it is that I have to offer in the summer of 2021 or 2022, whatever it is. And when I started to really think about my brand as a brand, a luxury brand, I wanted to be able to create my own campaigns to showcase what it is that we do and provide to our clients. And content creation was something that came natural to me. I am not afraid to be on camera, I'm not shy. But then it started to curate this, I would say, Eris experience or the Jayne Heir show where people would tune into our stories and watch the wedding from behind the scenes. We would talk about the event design, talk about how did we create this color palette or just some of the fun design elements. And it really gave our audience an authentic view of what it's like to work with us, what it's like to be a part of the Jane Eyre experience on their event day, and to be able to place it on a platform that has a reach farther than I have, just as a small business owner. And so I think content creation at that time when we started, especially during the pandemic, there were a lot of events really happening. As much people had really stopped celebrating. So that was a prime opportunity to showcase what it is that we could do when people had their phones in their hands or, they didn't want to be bored. And so it was bringing the campaign directly to them. And it was a huge game changer for us and really helped the business to just grow exponentially and to extend our reach and to put us in front of a different audience that we were not already in front of, creating that brand awareness. And that was really the key and intent with the content creation. Now, yes, the content creation, not only is it being used for business owners, couples are using it, people want to promote, their service product. And so it is much more of the norm now. But I think when I started, it wasn't, but I felt like it created a trend in our, at least in our market, of what people inspired and what they wanted to obtain in their marketing efforts for their business.
I agree. I think you definitely set trends. I think people saw those videos of you welcoming them to an event, dressed to the nines, by the way, looking fabulous. And I know she was working her
butt off right before that video was taken. So a quick change in the bathroom and she looked like a movie star, but welcoming people into the event and talking about the event, walking them through the confidence that you exude on camera. I was going to ask you, like, did you have media training? Does it come naturally to you? It's good to know that it comes naturally. You can kind of tell it
Definitely. In
comes
my
naturally.
past life, I would have been a journalist in some form or fashion, a reporter. Um, that's the profession I would have chosen.
I think you would have been great at it. Like you would have been like anchor of the nightly news, like Peter Jennings level.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Barbara Walters, the legend.
Yes, for sure. Asking all the hard hitting questions.
With that said, though, I would love to just kind of know what goes into the content creation for a wedding day. Do you spend a lot of time thinking through what you wanna capture, or is it more so you know that you wanna you have a certain script that you kind of use, and then you let the day unfold and you capture it as is? How much preparation and planning goes into that for your business?
I love this question because a lot goes into it. And so, at least my approach in working with the content creator is just like any other vendor. So, not only are we curating a timeline for them of what needs to be captured and when, providing a scope of work of here is the time frame that we have to capture these elements. Talking through the event design and what elements they need to capture and how I want them to capture it. I think that's another important aspect because what I do see or hear a lot of times from other creators is that they say it's so hard to create content. I just don't have the time, like on the event day. But I think is really understanding that preparation for content happens long before the event day.
Mm.
So when our content creation team arrives, they already know the floor plan, where these design elements are, they know where to go to capture it, why it's significant to the event design. And then we're talking through each of those key points in I'm pretty quick. So usually no more than 2 takes, maybe 3 max if I get tongue tied. But it's really thinking about what it is that you want to showcase. And again, being really intentional with the marketing. If I know that I'm doing this incredible escort wall display or we're going to have this amazing installation for ceremony. Okay, I'm going to the content and say, for this wedding, the color palette is this. I have this installation that's going to be 30 feet long. It's going to be and just really giving them the rundown, just how you would do for a feature or a submission, giving them all of the highlights. I'm providing that to the content creator in advance. The other thing that I'm doing too, in that took some time to really figure out because people were not familiar with content creators, was working with the other vendor partners to let them know that either A, I am bringing a content creator, or I would have my vendor team complete what I needed to be done specifically in a time frame for myself and the content creator before photo and video came in to do their stuff that the clients had paid for. And I think that's something that was really crucial for us because then I'm not having to worry about audio in the background, people walking through the space. I really had a good half hour for myself to go through the space to record everything I needed to prior to the photography and videography team coming in to capture the space. So my content creator was not even a factor for them. They weren't in the way. They weren't, they're trying to get content alongside of them, which I think can be problematic. And it definitely took some time to learn that. But you treat them just like any other vendor. You properly prepare them and take the time to give them the timeline, the floor plans, the mood board, your design deck to help them be able to tell the story alongside of you.
Yeah. When you bring in a content creator, sometimes your clients appear in the videos and you might do like a room reveal with them. Were you ever nervous to include clients in the videos, or do you prep clients in advance about your content creators, or anything in there that you think somebody listening should understand how it works?
Absolutely. So I would definitely connect with the clients if it was a wedding that we were doing content for. The funny thing is, though, over time, as people got used to me producing content, the clients were looking, they were asking, "Oh, are you going to do content at my wedding? Are you?" Because, they wanted to star in the campaign as well, right? But I think I started working with my couples to explain to them that for marketing purposes, I am going to be recording content. Are you comfortable with this? Are you okay? just so that there's not a foreign vendor there that they've never seen before, recording content.
Yeah.
Another key thing, Candice, that we didn't discuss is that when I worked my content creator, we were recording on an actual video camera. It was not an iPhone. So these were images or campaigns that were created with videography equipment, not with an iPhone. And so I think it's really important to understand that aspect as well. Because of that, it was not a quick turnaround in getting the content up within 24 hours. It was very curated. It took time to put together these campaigns. And so I think when I was thinking about posting the content or getting it out there, I was also very strategic in what was the right timing, what deliverable I should set for my videographer that was creating the content for us. Is very different. And now where everything is very instantaneous, people have their cell phones. It can be, uploaded within 10 minutes. It can be uploaded while the event's still happening. You have so many different avenues of how people capture content now. But I think our content stood out because the quality was so good. And, it was the audio, it was the lighting, the productions, it was all of the elements to create a professional campaign for a luxury brand that I feel like has gotten a little bit diluted now with the era of content creation. People are not, really thinking about microphone quality, lighting production. They just want to capture it and get it out there. And I think it's more on an instantaneous scale, but I think that's an important part, that the investment that I put into my content was very expensive, high quality, just like the brand. And I think if people want to continue to grow in the luxury market, you really have to consider all of those things to make sure everything you're producing is at the quality that your clients are seeking or would expect for your brand. It's so
Yeah.
important to understand that.
It is really important to understand that. If it looks cheap, you look cheap. And if people don't want cheap, they're not going to hire you. It's really important that you make sure that your marketing is as expensive looking as the services or the products that you put out there. Packaging is everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything. But you bring up a great point. I was wondering if I should ask you this question, so I'm just going to. And it's about the investment that you've made in your marketing. I know the investment. It's nobody's business how much, but you have put a lot of investment in your branding, in your marketing. And one thing I admire about you, Jamesa, is if it can't be done to your level, you're not going to do it. And so when you decide that you're going to do something, you do it to the max level. And you also realize that it's probably going to cost the max price. And if you believe in it, you will pay for it. And I so appreciate that about you. I think a lot of people could learn a little something there. But let's talk about the investment, because this has been a pretty big investment. You've hired experts, you've hired team members to do this. There's post-production. It's not just like whipping out your phone and taking some cute videos.
No, that's oh my gosh, the investment. You cannot be afraid to invest in your business. You will see the return on it. And I think my very first shoot that I did was that 2020, I think 2020, 2021, when we first started working together, Candice.
Yeah.
That shoot to me, I thought was going to be like astronomical. Like, I would say, I think the investment for just the shoot production, all of that stuff at the time was maybe around 15,000, not including like a new website design, which again, you add on another 7 to 10K for that, depending on who you decide to work with. It really adds up. But I think in making those initial investments, within a month or two, no more than 3 months, I had already made that investment back like it was nothing. And I think that people sometimes get caught up on, oh my gosh, it's so expensive, how much it's going to cost, but not really understanding the yield that they'll get from being willing to simply make the investment. And making the investment took me from, being amongst a sea of hundreds of planners to now maybe a sea of about 10 planners in my market,
Yes.
and really helping you to elevate as a creative and as a brand, and starting to stand out and to set yourself apart. And so those investments got me to the level of standing out and separating myself from a sea of other planners and really starting to create a brand and create brand recognition. And so if you're not willing to, make the investment in just creating a marketing strategy with intent, it will keep you in a sea of vendors and not help you to really elevate and start to get really specific about what it is that you do and provide.
Yeah, it's gonna keep you stuck.
Yeah, it's gonna keep you stuck,
Yeah,
absolutely.
keep you
Yeah.
held back, and I get making big investments, it's scary. I think you have to be ready for it first and foremost, and you have to really believe in the investment. Of course, things that are expensive, every nobody wants to spend $15,000 on a photo shoot. That's no, we're not all dying to do that, but we do want the other side of it, which is the
Mhm.
types of clientele it'll attract, the elevation of your brand. I think what's helpful is actually hearing your story, Jamesa, and hearing some figures of some of the investments you've made in marketing in your business. It helps put it into perspective, the level that you're doing things at, what the investments were, so people will know what to expect because, we're not sure what to expect. And, a $10 Canva graphic from Creative Market is going to get you started. It's going to get you there, but it's not going to take your business maybe to the level that Jamesa is operating at if that's where you want to be. So it's important to put these investments in perspective.
Yeah, and when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, creating a shoot or campaign, for 15,000 to be able to start producing weddings and events for clients that have budgets of 2 or 300,000 is
Mhm.
definitely worth it. I
Yeah,
think then when you start to, get investments of, 30, 40, 50K for marketing to go to the next level, you want to start, producing 500,000 $1,000,000 weddings, that you have to be willing to make those initial investments to produce the caliber of collateral that you need to attract those type of clients. And so if
yeah.
that's where you want to go, where you want to be, you have to be willing to make those type of investments to attract what you're going after.
Agreed. And this principle can be applied to every business, no matter the market. So, whether you're in the ultra luxury, whether you're in luxury, or maybe you're in the mid market, the same principle can be applied. If you want to attract a certain subset of clients at a certain budget bracket, you have to play the role. And that has to come through in your marketing. I'm curious, do you think the way marketing is today with content creation and everything that you see people doing and what you pretty much were one of the first to do in your business, do you think that's like the baseline now way forward? Do you think everybody needs to be doing this?
So I definitely think it's the way forward. I think it's expected now, and it helps you to put into a video format people to hear your voice, to see what you look like, to see what your work looks like in another dimension that is beyond just photography. So I do think it's really important to have that. I do feel like right now, though, I'm in a space of what does my digital marketing strategy look like now? How do I position myself again to stand out, to set myself apart when now we are surrounded by so many content creators? Everybody's producing reels, everybody's producing, And so I think now is the challenge of how do we adapt and how do we evolve to continue to operate in a spirit of excellence, but just being able to continue to get the brand messaging out there. And I think content creation, it's here, it's not going, anywhere. And I think it's time for us to really embrace it and to understand how to leverage it to further your marketing.
What do you think about the faceless marketing movement? Are you familiar with this where there are people out there saying that like you can run a business and not have to show your face?
You can, but I think it's something that is just so special and authentic when you are showing up as yourself. People fall in love with you. People want to buy from you. People want to see you. They want to interact with you. And I have learned that in having my business that people want to see Jamesa. They want to work with Jamesa. They want to be involved in all things Jamesa, and not to my own horn, but I think that I have really like grown a brand, a personal brand that people resonate with, that people want
Mhm.
to buy from. And I think it's really important that when you are showing up, to show up as your authentic self, to really show up as your best self so that people can really understand who you are and what it is that you can provide for them for their event. It's a product or service, no matter, what it is. And I think it's okay to be faceless. I feel like if you have a product, but if you are in a service based business, you need to be showing up often and showing up as much as you can because I am the business. Jayne Heir is, Jamesa Alexander. That is the business. People even call me Jane. Some people don't even call me by my first name. They call me Jane. I'm like, well, that's not my name, but I'll take it. But yeah, I think it's really important to show up. I'm not opposed to faces, but I think it's a bit of cowardice in there for me. And when people are faceless, it's some type of fear or something that they don't want to show up. It's some type of reasoning of, why they don't. And I understand. I think again, if it's a product, more so the product is the star of the show versus a person. But I think when it's a service-based business, you really have to be really authentic and show up so that people really know, who they're buying from it and what it is that they're buying.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. It's very hard to do faceless marketing in the wedding industry. And the truth is the baseline is that you have to show up in your full personality. And if that's what people are expecting and you don't do it, then they think something's wrong, or they think there's an element of mistrust there if they don't get to see you, if they don't hear from you. And you're doing yourself a disservice by not putting yourself in your market. I mean, your greatest asset is your voice, your way of thinking, your opinions, your way of doing things. These are all things that naturally come to you. And it's very easy to just share your thoughts with people in your marketing. And to Jamesa's original point about the big decision, or that one big thing that really transformed her business was just getting started. There are different milestones throughout her entire career where she just did something. She just started something. Even if she was uncomfortable, even if it was hard, even if she didn't know how to do it, she still tried. And through the act of doing that, she got better and better. So I think for anybody who feels like, I just don't know if I have the confidence Jamesa has to put myself out there. Well, work on building that confidence and just start. You might find that it's a lot easier. It becomes a lot easier the more you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure your takes on wedding day have gone down significantly because you know what to say and you know what to do. Same thing with me. I used to record an episode over and over again until I get it right. Now I'm just like, well, it is what it is.
It's fine.
I would
Yeah.
love to, yeah, I'd love to ask you the question, what does it mean to have a Jayne Heir event? What does that mean?
I love that question. Having a Jane Eyre event means that you are going to pretty much immerse yourself into an experience. It's not just the event, it's the experience. And when I work with my couples, I like to ask them, when you walk into the room, what does it smell like? What does it sound like? What are the vibes that you get? Is it going to be a brassy, or is it techno? Is it EDM? Really just helping you to understand what is possible, and nothing is off limits. And I think it allows clients to experience things exactly how they want to experience it, and walking them through that process. And so it's really just awakening all of your senses and being able to immerse yourself into the experience. But it's twofold though, because a Jane Eyre event is not just about the celebrant, but we also factor in the guests that are attending and what is their experience like. And so I think that's something that's really important too, is a twofold, where it's about the celebrant, but then also what does the guest experience look like? And working with our clients, that is what makes a Jane Eyre event. It's really just being able to create a vision that hasn't been created before. I love being the inspiration for the people on Pinterest, being able to put a pin out there that people have not seen, not experienced, and becoming the inspiration for others. And so that is something that a Jane Eyre event embodies.
Good answer. I can't argue with that. And your brand is moving even more into that immersive experience as your brand evolves. So tell me, what's on the horizon for you? We've talked about how you've gotten to this stage and what you've built, this incredible business, how marketing has played a big role in your growth. And I'm curious, what is the next phase for you, or what are you looking towards in the future?
In the future, I'm looking forward to doing some big brand activations. I think taking the campaign bug that I got latched onto a few years ago and creating some really cool brand activations. And I think the thing I love about brand activations, it's a bit of marketing and sales and event curation, if that makes sense. And it's putting all the puzzle pieces together to create something that is very different but unique for each entity. I think we've had the opportunity this year and last year too to work with nonprofit organizations, to work with different corporate organizations. And I really do like being a part of their mission and really helping them to create the awareness about the services that they provide to the community. And that's something that I am really starting to look towards for the future is big brand activations, but then also working with more nonprofit and corporate clients to be able to be immersed into the community a bit more.
This sounds exciting. And again, you're thinking outside the box. So you're continuing to push those boundaries. I feel like whenever things feel safe and comfortable for you, or whenever maybe you feel boxed in by design or business or creativity, you're like, nope, got to go outside the lines. Like, I got to color outside the lines. I wonder, as a kid, were you coloring outside the lines? You feel like a rule follower to me, like somebody who's like, going to be perfect in the lines, but I'm curious.
I feel like
Here's what I will say. I feel like when I started in this business, I was very much so a rule follower. And I think things have to be done this way and that way. But then as things over time, I was like, you really can do whatever you want to do, how you want to do it, and there are no limitations. And once I made my mind up that I was going to create my own path forward, and again, coloring outside of the lines, creating my own brand story, that's when things I feel like really started to evolve and take off for me because I wasn't boxed in. And I think you're absolutely right. When you just feel boxed in, you're just trapped. It's like, get me out of here and get me out of here quickly. And I think you never want to get to a point where you just feel stuck and you have to keep growing and evolving. And it is scary. And I think, even now, Candice, I've done, weddings and social events for so long. And even, going into the corporate space, I think there's a lot to learn there. There's still a bit that's the unknown. And it is very scary. But again, get started and figure it out while you're on the journey. It didn't work out so bad for me over the last decade. But I think I am also too taking more time to learn and to become knowledgeable before just jumping into. And I think I've spent a lot of time networking, joining different women organizations and groups to learn about some of the certifications out there, what type of funding is available, things to really help me to succeed when I do start to venture into this space. And I think as creatives and business owners, we can't be afraid to continue to keep learning and don't be afraid to say, I don't know, but what are some resources out there that can help me? And that's what I should have did when I first started my business that I didn't. I had to learn the hard way.
That's okay. Hard lessons stick with you. They stay through
Forever.
Mhm.
But, now that I have that knowledge and again, even working with a business coach, I think a lot of people are doing themselves a disservice in not having a business coach. I think there's so much to really learn and strategize to help you to grow and to become, where it is that you want to be in your business. And business coaching has definitely helped me to be strategic, to simply just think and not just do. And when I am doing something that's actionable and I know why I'm doing it, who's the messenger, who's going to be on the other end of, what it is that I want to create, that is something that came from coaching. And I think as a creative, no matter how much tenure you have in your business, being coachable is what's going to really help you to go to the next level too.
I agree. As a coach and as somebody who is coached, we have to be coachable. I feel like there's maybe a mentorship with Jamesa. I feel like we need to launch a mentorship program. I'm sure people are listening to your story and they're thinking, oh my God, I would love to actually have Jamesa be my coach. I would love to learn from this talented woman. Like she's talking about things that I've always desired to do, or I love how fearless she's been in her business. So you never know. Jamesa may be launching a mentorship program by the time the day is over and I have her on Voxer telling her what she needs to do.
You know what? So many people ask and people reach out over time. And that is something else that I have been thinking about considering. We probably should talk about that, Candice, is getting into the education space and figuring out, how I can mentor, really help out some up and coming creatives or business owners, that want to grow and evolve, that are willing to learn. And like I said, to be coachable. I think that that is something that I would like to explore more and really just creating the time to be able to do that. I think is something that could also be in the future as well.
Oh yeah, you are such a powerhouse. You have so much knowledge to share and give and so many great experiences that would benefit someone. And I think you're just I mean just listening to you talk, which I've listened to you for 4 years talk, I'm always so impressed with your ideas, your tenacity, your strategies that you work on in your business. I think you have a lot to offer. So who knows? You might see in the new website of Jayne Heir Events mentorship tab.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. And this is a question we plan to ask all of our guests on the Behind the Brand series. In your opinion, what makes an iconic brand in the wedding industry?
Huh. I think what makes an iconic brand, well, is two things I would say for me. Being able to be immortal. And I feel like right now I'm in this space and I lost a planner friend a couple of months ago, and it has really stuck with me for quite some time because I often think about when you do depart this earth, what is the legacy that your business leaves behind? And I think that is what makes you iconic when your business, whatever you've created, is still able to live on without you. That's what makes you iconic. When I think about icons, people like, Michael Jackson, kids that are 3, 4, 5 years old, they know about Michael Jackson, they know about his dance moves, but he's been gone for, quite some time. But his legacy still lives on. And so I think when you think about being iconic, it's about legacy and I think immortality and how you're able to create a business or brand that can continue on without you. And I've seen, there was a caterer that I worked with, a family owned business in the Baltimore area, and 3 of their family members have passed suddenly within the last, like, 3 to 5 years, but I'm doing a wedding with them next week. They're still going. They're still in business. They're still marketing, and to me, I think that's when you've made it to icon status, where you're able to build and create a brand that can live on beyond you.
And also leave an imprint on people. Also long after
Mhm.
you're no longer here or you're just no longer a part of the
Part of the
business.
business. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I consider to be an iconic brand in our industry. And that's honestly, I feel like in any industry, no matter if it's weddings or fashion or, anything. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. It also puts into perspective just how important our work is and the legacy that we leave behind in the work that we do. A lot of times I think we in the wedding industry feel like, our work is superficial. Nobody really needs a wedding. Nobody needs to spend this money on a wedding. And all those things are true. We know that. I personally eloped, I don't even know what we spent on our wedding, but it was like literally $0 and 0 cents. We didn't do anything. And that's how a lot of people choose to get married. And that's fine. But for the people who want to gather together to create a memory, the work that we do is really meaningful. And you think about the legacy that you get to leave behind, all the lives that you get to touch, not just the couples, but their immediate families, and then the guests who get to experience the work that you do and have that immersive experience of being treated so well and being delighted and surprised. And then you think about how two people come together and they have a marriage and maybe they have a family or they create their own legacy together. Your hands are on that. And I think that's pretty cool and very powerful.
Absolutely, definitely. And I think when you think about it, it just goes back to the core of what we said, Candace, and people are at the core of everything that we do.
Mhm.
And people never forget how you made them feel, the memories that you created for them that really live on for an eternity. And I think what we do in this industry is very unique. It's one of a kind, but it's something that's very valuable to people that see value in what it is that we provide.
I agree. And we're going to end on that positive, reflective note. Jamesa, thank you so much for being very honest, sharing the secrets behind your success. I am excited for the journey ahead. You've only just begun on this mission of creating your own legacy and supporting people and the legacies of their families and of their businesses and all the great people you'll touch along the way. So thank you so much for being such a great guest on today's episode of the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Candice. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm just so excited to just share the knowledge, to be a part of the experience. And like I said, just hoping to encourage the next person that's just thinking about getting started. And all I can say is get started.
Just start. Well,
Just start.
with that encouragement and also an emphasis that you need to get your marketing game together and maybe make some bold investments in your brand and your business. I want to remind you that there's so much power in your purpose, and I'll see you next time.